Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Tuesday, July 9th, 2024. It is 4 p.m. Is there a motion to call the Board of Select meeting to order?
So moved.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting will be audio and video recorded. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. First thing on the agenda, we have a transfer of a general on-premises all alcoholic beverages license from MS De Silva Inc., doing business as Rivers End, to Ernie Medeiros, doing business as Rivers End. Ernest P. Medeiros, 7.5 Tarkland Hill Road. Review of matters presented. Votes may be taken. Looks pretty straightforward to me. Gentlemen, any comments or questions?
Now, other than to Mark and Sue, I want to thank you for being just such an important part of the community. Rivers End is just a place where people can go hang out. Never any issues over there. You guys did a great job, and just really, Mr. Medeiros, you got big shoes to fill over there. I think, owning an establishment in town is a huge responsibility, and it's not just about, making the last buck, but it's about really being part of the community and being involved. And so, to Sue and Mark, thank you for all that, for all your years of doing that for the town.
Yeah, I would second that all day long, and I've personally known Mark and Sue for a long time, and you've been tremendous business owners in our community, and heavily involved in giving back to the community. I think that's first and foremost, right? You guys are great folks. We'll miss you as owners, but we know you're not leaving the community, so for that and all your contributions to the town and the townspeople, thank you very much.
Mark and Sue, I hope you get some rest and enjoy some relaxation. Mr. Medeiros, just remember, it's the first thing people see when they come into our town. It's also the last thing sometimes. So, like they said, you got big shoes to fill. We know you'll be all right with it. So we appreciate it. Good luck. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the liquor license transfer.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Well, if I may say one thing to the
Yes, Mr.
board.
Walsh.
I just thank you guys very much for doing this. I just want to tell you how appreciative it is to work with good people, and you have great people working in your town. The people in this building were very helpful in this application. I want to especially thank Tanya, who was great with my office, and Mr. Medeiros' plan is to continue operating the great business that his predecessor did. So I want to thank the entire town for their efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Walsh.
sir.
All right. Jumping right into the executive session here. All right.
That's it. We're done.
You guys are good to go. I made you wait an extra week, I'm sorry, so I figured we'd get you out quick.
Take care.
Thank you.
We have an executive session involving Slocum Street. Executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A3, to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, Slocum Street, if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body, and the board will return to public session at the conclusion of the executive session. Is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr.
And I'm a
Gasper?
yes.
And I am a yes. We are now in executive session. Welcome back, everyone.
Mr. Chairman,
Is there a motion to return to open session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes, Mr.
Mr.
Kelly.
Chairman, the board was briefed on various options concerning the Slocum Street ARPA project and the results of the bidding that came in, and the board has options in front of it. So that will clarify for the folks at home the progress that was made.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to award and execute the Slocum Street Infrastructure Improvements Project to Bisco Contracting Corp. of Fall River, Mass. for a total contract price of $3,557,706.65 for cents for work included in the base bid, $451,203.79, and alternate A bid, $106,502.86. The commencement of work for alternate A will be delayed and is contingent on receiving all necessary permits within 245 days after the initial commencement of the project.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Roll call vote, Mr. Warner.
Yes.
Roll call vote, Mr. Gasper.
Yes.
And I am a yes. It's good, we're actually making some progress on it, gentlemen.
Moving slowly, but we're moving.
As long as you're moving forward. Next item on the agenda, Yozakura Kitchen Common Vic License, Parking Agreement. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken. Gentlemen, as you know, we issued our Common Vic License with the understanding that there was a parking agreement involved and included, and as you also know, that agreement is no longer valid. So we have to decide what kind of action we need to take. I saw Mr. Foley here earlier. Oh, there he is. Mr. Foley, do you have any plans on to what are you arranging any other parking arrangements?
My plan would be to evacuate the building as of September 1st.
Okay. Well, sorry to hear that. Gentlemen, I don't know if, are you still open, Mr. Foley?
Yes.
I would entertain a motion to allow him to keep the common vic until September 1st.
That would be great. Thank you, because I have a reservation.
I'm not looking to push him out any, he's already closing. No need to rush it in my book.
Yeah, Mr. Foley, you have an option, right? And I know you just talked about closing in such a little time that you reopened, but we did do the common vic contingent upon a parking plan, and you did have that agreement with a fellow neighbor, right?
Yes.
If you can engage in conversation with that individual and resettle the agreement that you originally had with him and come up to date with payments for parking, and you can provide this board with it, we could continue the operation as it exists. If not, we're gonna be forced to revoke that common vic license.
Payments have been made and everything is up to date as of now. I just choosing to leave.
Okay.
Are you guys okay with at least keeping it open until September 1st?
Of course, absolutely.
Yep.
We had a motion and a second. All those in
All those
favor?
in favor? Aye.
Right.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
if the gentleman decides to close, he can surrender the common vic license, and then you won't have to go through a hearing.
Sure. All right. Well, thank you for your time in town, Mr. Foley, I appreciate it.
Good luck.
Thank you. All right. Gentlemen, next item on the agenda, Police Chief Assessment Center discussion. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken. Chief,
Good afternoon, everyone.
how are you?
I am tremendous, thank you. Yourself?
So far, so good.
Okay. I had sent along a memo to Mr. Kelly on Friday. I'm pretty sure I made it into the packet, just kind of summarizing everything, so I'll speak to it, summarize it. I have some additional information, and I'll send you the updated document to Mr. Kelly with some other contact information, should you choose to contact them to confirm or anything I'm saying. So, you know, as was made public at town meeting on the 17th, I am retiring effective September 6th. While that was, I guess, the first public acknowledgement, I did actually give my written notice and verbal notice the week of May 31st. So the clock is ticking. So these are the options that are available right now, should you just choose to proceed. The first step would be to determine, to call for a civil service assessment center for police chief. The first step would be to determine eligibility criteria. There are two choices. The first choice is the departmental promotional exam, where it is open to department members only. It goes to the rank directly below chief first. If we do not get 4, which is sergeant, if we do not get 4 sergeants, it then opens up to patrolman, which is the same thing we did 5 years ago. The second option is open competitive civil service. That's open to any police officer in the state with 5 or more years of managerial experience in any police department. Managerial experience is defined by anyone that holds the rank of sergeant or higher. Now, the biggest issue with this type of eligibility is the cost of the town. As you know, there's a cost for the assessment center, and that cost is directly related to the number of participants that you have in an assessment center. When you have an open like that, if you were to have an open competitive, you have no control over how many people sign up. What's been a practice in the past is many officers that are aspiring to be promoted within their own departments will see an open exam, will drop the exam fee just for the experience of going through an assessment center, to hone their skills, so to speak, for another job. So you really have no control over the number of people. You post the announcement is posted through civil service. If you do open competitive, whoever signs up, and you've got to run an assessment center for that many people. Which is, you can't limit beyond the 5 years of managerial experience. A couple of downsides on that, other than if the cost would be astronomical. Acushnet candidates receive no preference over other candidates. And in addition to that, if there's any sergeant here with less than 5 years experience on the job, I should say in grade as a sergeant, they would also be excluded from being able to take this exam. So I think if you take that second option, you're severely limiting the ability to have your next police chief come from within the ranks. And you're also looking at, like I said, you're looking at exorbitant costs, I believe, for the assessment center. So once the board makes that choice, the next choice is you've got two education and experience options. The first one is in title experience only, where only people that have experience as chiefs would get a slight bonus. The second one, which is more common, and the traditional one that most departments go by, is the true education experience, which factors in a number of your time on the job, your training classes, your education level, according to a transparent and defined schedule. That's, like I said, that's the most widely used option, and that's open. That matrix, so to speak, that scoring matrix is well known to everyone. My suggestion would be to use that option because it captures more of the person's qualifications. Once the board has made a decision on those first two items, the third step would be to request an exam formally through the civil service portal. It's called a requisition. I would be able to do that as the town's NeoGov liaison to civil service. Once we put in that requisition, civil service then sends us what's called a delegation agreement, which allows us to host the civil service. So they would come down, board would examine it, sign off on it, goes back to the civil service, they sign off on it, they send it back to us, and then that would give us the ability to go out, whether we do an RFP or a bid process, or hire a company that does the assessment centers. So these things take time. The quicker we can get the requisition in, the quicker we can get things moving. Being civil service, there is a certain period of time that once we make that decision, we put the requisition, that the posting, so the exam has to be posted for a certain amount of time. I don't know if it's 6 or 8 weeks, but it has to be posted to allow everybody to submit their paperwork and prepare, so to speak. And I had some incorrect, wrong email address in the document I provided you for the Deputy Director of Civil Service, but I have the accurate one, and I also had the occasion to speak to the Director of Civil Service yesterday, so I'll forward that information, that contact information as well. One thing I would say is that, the position of police chief is currently under civil service. It should remain there. While there's certainly a need to vet the candidates, much like Mr. Gasper's board did 5 years ago, where we did the assessment center, then we were given, essay questions in advance, and then we had, oral interviews, public oral interviews. I want to caution you that in researching some of this information, that if the intent is to assign essay questions, that it should be done under the umbrella of the assessment center and let, come up with your questions beforehand, the essay questions, and give it to them to vet. The reason being is those questions, if they become a factor in determining who the next chief is, the grading of the questions can be subject to appeal. And if the board includes them after the exam system, after the exam process, then it's going to be the town and the board's job and responsibility to handle any appeal on questions. Where if they're vetted and they're put through the assessment center, it's their responsibility, and civil service will handle the appeals as far as that goes. A couple other suggestions, and this is just me, far be it for me to tell you how to do it, but a couple of things to consider is that I suggest that a salary range be posted, publicly available, so the candidates can make an informed decision before committing to the process. It's probably a little late for it now, but I've been saying it, and Chief Alves had said it, and really Chief Boytrus even said it back in the day, that strong consideration should be considered at some point to be establishing a deputy chief position or an executive officer, whether you want to call it a captain, lieutenant, whatever you want to call it. If we had one now, we wouldn't be in such a rush to get things done, because we'd have somebody that would be a non-union member of management that would, in theory, have the expertise to maybe take the job, but also be able to run the ship, so to speak, when I depart. Not that I'm not confident in the candidates within the departments, of which are here today. We're going to be taking steps over the next few weeks, few months really, to bring them up to speed on certain aspects of the job. But there are some aspects, even in a small department, that responsibilities really, will fall to the chief. It might be a thing that comes up, once a week. It might be a thing that comes up once a year. But just a lot of things fall, and I'm going to do my best to bring them, all up to speed. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. So like I said, it's going to be a decision on the eligibility type for the exam, the type of education experience. Once you make a decision on that, I can go online and make the requisition and then go from there. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Gassman?
So, Chief, to get this straight, because of the time frame, step one, to discussing the choice amongst the board, I think that's pretty easy for the board to figure out. Choice, the second step is, the choice, number two, which is traditional education and experience, the factors in experience, training, and education according to the defined schedule, right? That's kind of what we did last time, right?
Yes, that is.
So, step three is pretty much the last stop right now for the board is we need to figure out what we want, I believe, the composition of the delegation agreement to be looked at by HRD, right? Which is, we determine assessment centers percentage. Do we want to put, I put some notes, we can do 10% ranking on experience and training, 20% on education, 10% on a written exam, 60% is assessment center to make up the 100%.
Well, under the assessment center, there is no written exam. It's the assessment center is, although there are writing components of it.
On that small 10% that I mentioned for the written exam, we did it kind of last time around for you folks. You guys did it like a little.
It wasn't a written exam, so to speak. It was a written exercise that was a component of the assessment center.
Right. Well, you just mentioned something about the scoring factor, right? That we
Correct.
wouldn't want to. My question, I guess, to you is, you're making a recommendation. I think, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I need to be clear because of what you said about the challenge of the appeal process, right? So if we did the same process that we did the last time, is that what you're talking about? You're making a recommendation,
Yeah.
perhaps not to do that because in part of the scoring part because of the appeal process. Is that what you're trying to say?
Correct, because despite, and I'm not, I'll be frank, despite last time going through the essay questions after the assessment center, we did the essay questions, we did the public interview with the board. Coming out of the assessment center, and I have no problem saying this, I was ranked number one. And short of me handing in essay questions or not handing in essay questions or handing in garbage and coming in here and just being a total mess and vulgar and this, that, and the other thing, there was no reason, there wasn't going to be an opportunity to bypass me. So I guess what I'm saying is the best protection for the board and for the town would be, if there are questions, is to, when it comes time to negotiate with the company that does the assessment center, to insert those questions into the assessment center, so they're scored through the assessment center.
Yeah. That's fine. I'm just, so in the delegation, the board needs to come up with a composition, I think, for the delegation, right? What percentages of things do we want as ranked with HRD, the delegation agreement, right? So
Yeah.
we should be deciding tonight, is it 60% assessment center, and do we take, as inside of choice 2, which we traditionally did last time, experience and training, put 10% on that, maybe that's 20% if we don't do a written exam, say 20% experience and training, 20% education, 60%.
I don't think we have that much flexibility, Mr. Gasper. I think when we request the assessment center through civil service, there's like the assessment center is a percentage. I want to say there's 80% assessment center and 20% education and experience, as interpreted by a fixed protocol. Like you get X amount of points for this, but it's well defined. I think the only flexibility we may have under civil service, under this, is that education experience, you might be able to tweak it up or down, but it's a drop-down menu you got to choose. It's either 80, 20, 90, 10. I don't think you can go down as far as like say 60% for assessment center and 20%.
20.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can do that.
Because it's all part of the categories, right? And I
Correct.
thought, I've had some conversation with council, and I thought that he said that you do have that ability, but I don't know if that's true, what HRD would look at. I think it's, both sides, it does say in your statement that both sides need to agree to the agreement, the delegation
Yes.
agreement, right? So I just think that if the board would have that preference to put in certain things and see what civil service HRD sends back, instead of it just being a full-blown assessment center and just saying the assessment center score prevails and have a nice day.
Well,
We should be able to do weightings, right? And not let that be,
we can do weightings, but it's not as flexible as 60% assessment center, 15% this. It's not that. It's
so
not
I
that
think
flexible.
we need to figure that out, right? Because the delegation agreement's gotta come back for both parties to sign. And if we don't like what it says, what are we doing? I mean, well, again, the chief just said, we have time constraints, right?
Chief, can you have flexibility of what's in the assessment center?
Yes, that's determined between agreement between the town and the company that runs the assessment center.
So you can insert similar items.
Exercises or assignments within the assessment center. But as far as that scoring would come through on the assessment center. But as far as a quote-unquote education experience, which is a defined document, I think the only...
Yeah, we have to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
See what
Well, no, but we don't-
HRD puts on that.
We can't say that, okay, a degree in this is worth that, a degree in this is worth that. We're not saying that. Civil service is saying that. That is fixed and that is public and transparent.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
Whatever those percentages are, right?
yes.
So,
Within the assessment center, there's a great deal of flexibility
There absolutely is.
for the town and the company conducting the assessment center, not only as far as what's in the subject matter of the assessments, but the weight.
What I can say is what they did, the company that we used, the police department used last time, is they came down, they had extensive conversation with the chief and I believe members of town government at the time, and filled out a survey and had discussions, and the exercises that we performed were based and designed around those conversations.
I mean, we define what we want,
Correct.
right? I mean,
the assessment center.
right. I mean, they
And
take
it's geared toward, like I said, it's geared toward, it's not geared for Boston PD or Springfield PD. It's geared for, Acushnet
Yeah,
PD
yeah,
by
understood.
talking
Right.
to the people, the leaders within the
Yeah,
community.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know, off the top, like an essay, I mean, I agree with you, let the assessment center deal with the essay, to be honest, I don't know, I think an essay is kind of a, whatever,
Right.
I mean, I'm not a big fan of that, right?
Yeah, they-
I'm not gonna sit here and grade papers, that's not my,
Right.
I don't think anybody who's going for the job wants me to grade papers, I mean,
We had,
I
I
think the
can tell you,
assessment center should be the rule, right? Not the
Yes.
exception, the rule. That's to make it all fair. Take out the take the politics out of it, take the personalities out of it. The assessment center should be the driving force, and the other stuff is just, like you said, if somebody totally,
And I'm not talking
taps
to
the bet
that.
on an interview or something like that, then all right, now we get a problem. But as far as I'm concerned, I think the assessment centers should be.
I mean, I exaggerate a little bit when I talk about, writing the questions in crayon and aren't answering or coming in here, a
But
drunken
no,
mess or
I
something
mean, look,
like that.
but I get it, I know what you're saying, but from my perspective, I think the assessment center should be the majority of so when we get.
And we define what's the assessment center
Right,
consists of,
right,
right? So that
yes.
pretty much does everything we want it to do,
So
and
everybody
just
knows
let
what the
everything
rules
play
of the
out.
road are.
Yep.
You can't. The less intangibles in this process, as far as I'm concerned, I think is fair and balanced for everybody.
And there's a couple of gentlemen in here that took in the last assessment center with me, and when we were done at the end of the day, first of all, we were spent, but we had the opportunity to talk. And between the four of us sitting there talking, we said, hey, that was by far the most thorough, interview process that we've ever gone through. And to a person, every one of us said, whoever scores the highest, it's their job to take, because it was that thorough of a process. So, whether or not they say that now, I don't know, but I'm only kidding. But at the time, it was, we all had that conversation. So it's a thorough process, a grueling process, but it does what it's designed to do.
Chief, do we, to try to expedite the process, right?
Yep.
We don't need to go out to bid for assessment center, can we just say, we used, I think it was Badge
Quest for us, I'm not sure if you use the same one for the fire department.
Yeah, you have to do a request for proposals. You don't have to go out for a full bid process. And
request for proposals, just saying that we went out to prove to the government that we went out and we did our due diligence, and we don't have to accept the lowest bidder for an assessment center, because quite honestly, what are we gonna tell them what we want as an assessment center? They'll determine price, right?
and it's not a large universe that provides these services.
I'm asking the question because if he's gonna communicate with HRD, right, through that NEO portal thing,
Yep.
whatever you talked about, I don't want to be sitting on our hands waiting for the chief to get us information. You need to expedite whatever we need to do for the assessment center, get that ball rolling as quick as possible, so that we're working with HRD, we're looking at the delegation, right, and saying, agreement, and saying, okay, is the board good with that? The board's good with the delegation agreement, we could be spinning right off and figuring out the assessment center, because as the chief alluded to earlier on, there's a time frame that we need to give the candidates time to prepare for the assessment center, and that could be up to 6 weeks.
Yeah, I'm not, I apologize, I don't know that, but there is a defined.
No, it's fine, but
what the posting has to be.
that's what's
So,
I remember the last time, it's not 3 or 4 weeks, right? It's a little bit longer than that. We don't have a big time frame
That's
that
with
we're working
civil
in.
service, but you can have two trains going down parallel tracks.
That's why I'm speaking right now, is we need to have 2 trains running down parallel tracks. We don't have time to let one train take off and then we're trying to play catch up on this end. We need to boogie along and get things going out of respect to our men and women in our police department. We need to get our together and move it forward, so I'm asking.
But by the same token, right, we're trying to get this so when you leave, there's an orderly transition. But I mean, we could conceivably, if there's somebody within the department who has no interest whatsoever of being chief and doesn't test for it, if that person was willing to step up, we could appoint them as an acting chief, right? Are you saying you want to do it?
No. I'm
I'm just saying, like, we got.
I agree 100%.
Because if somebody serves as the chief, they get an extra, they get extra points, correct?
Well, that's the problem.
So we don't want to do that if there's, 5 people applying for it. We don't
Correct.
wanna do anybody.
I agree with that. I was already thinking the same thing.
But,
There
if
is
we gotta be
something there.
like creative or thoughtful.
The amount, I would say the number of points are minimal, are very, very minimal. We're talking, for the amount of time that I've actually gone away and actually had an acting chief in the last 4 years, I mean, it's probably less than 4 weeks, which is going to be negligible. We're talking a fraction of a point potentially, then averaged out with the test score from the.
I think.
Sometimes perception.
That's right. I agree with Selectman Warner, right? I don't know if it puts an advantage to an individual but I agree with Selectman 100%, is if you have 4 people going and you do delegate that to one of them, it's that perception, upper hand advantage, and I don't want to be accused of, right? I don't think any one of us want to be accused of. So we could probably, if that's the case, and it is one of the 4 that are eligible to take the assessment center, if the Board of Selectmen have the authority to say it does not count to any additional points in final scoring, that's a horse of a different color.
Well, I think what's gonna happen, what minimal points or fractional point that it would give, it's only gonna be up until the time of the assessment center. So say the assessment center is, I'm just gonna say I leave on September 6th, and we have an acting chief on September 7th. And say the assessment center, I'm just throwing a date out there, say it's October 1st, right? Their credit and grade, so to speak, is only gonna be good for is only gonna be until the assessment center. Anything after that, if it takes 2 months or 3 months to do it, that's not gonna count.
I understand, I get concerned about the optics,
Yep.
right? And an interview, all that. So, you know, again, I'm just thinking out loud to the people from the department who have an interest. My intention is to be open, transparent, fair to everybody, and have a process that everybody understands. And at the end of the day, come out with a result that you said, like, may the best person win.
Yep.
And, you know, there's no question whatsoever. You know.
The one thing that I would ask, and there's obviously probably not for open discussion right now amongst you, is that when the rare occasion I've gone away and I've named an acting chief, it's been the same person. I've stayed consistent. Like I say, I'm not going anywhere before September 6th, but my intention is to start cross-training, you know, any sergeant that's interested in different aspects, different administrative aspects, and so everybody will have an opportunity to be trained in something. But again, after September 6th, and I would say there's gonna have to be an acting chief, and that's not gonna be my response. I don't have the ability to do that because I'm not gonna be here anymore. So there has to be some sort of consensus on that. And I don't think you want to wait till September 6th or September 7th. So we can have a discussion for that for another day.
Right, absolutely.
And I'll take a little bit of look into the point value, but I'm confident that we're talking a fractional point that's going to be negligible on the outcome.
So I think we need to, step 1, pick a choice, right? I think, look, from my personal experience with the men and women that work in our police department, the same choice that I had last time, I want to hire from within, right?
Agreed. Same.
So, there you go.
Okay.
So that's
We
that.
need a motion.
Motion to
Go with choice number
choice
two.
choice number one.
Number 1 on step 1, right?
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
All right. On step number 2, you have choice number 2, which is the traditional education experience, right?
Yes, and choice number 2 also waters down, so to speak, the in-title experience, whereas choice number 1 would only be in-title experience. So in the case of the last 5 years, there would only be one person that would be eligible and would get any type of credit for anything under choice 1. Choice 2 takes into account
It's the more widely
much
used
more.
option,
Yes,
it's the
yeah,
one
it
we
captures,
used.
it captures more of somebody's
It's the one we
experience
used last
in
time, right?
education. Yes.
So I'll make a motion on step 2 for choice 2.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
All right.
And step 3 is up to you now, Chief.
I'll do that, and I'll,
So Chief, can you do whatever you need to do with the town administrator, right? And we need, again, I can't emphasize this enough, and I think you've emphasized it enough tonight, and thank you for doing that, is the urgency to get the ball rolling, right? This is not something that we have any delays on, so whatever you need to do with HRD, let's get it done, get that information forwarded over to the board's office so that we can review it and do whatever approval that we need to, and we'll get opinion from council on the delegation agreement if need be. And we need to get
RFPs.
whatever, talk to council, however we need to do this, if it's even necessary of doing it, or if we can go out with the last company that we use. I was pretty happy with Badge Quest the last time. I'll poll, I see 3 other individuals, actually all 4 are here. So if I can poll Mr. Copper, you're here, is that Mr. Carew in the back?
Yeah.
Mr. Carew, Mr. Ashley, and yourself, were you all satisfied with the way Badge Quest conducted themselves in the assessment center?
Yes.
100%.
100%? That speaks volumes to me, from these four, Chief, you say?
I agree.
So the reality of it is we have those individuals in the room that were increasingly satisfied with Badge Quest. If that's the case, then if we can just go out.
How much does that usually cost?
Couple
Is it under
grand.
25, like, is it,
Couple
and they
grand.
change procurement, you just go out and get
It's
three?
tiered, it's tiered, it's tiered based on, the cost is tiered based on the number of participants. So if we had four, it's based on four.
I'm just wondering if we can just, because of
Last
procurement.
time was like 8 or 9 grand, costs have increased, right? So we're 5 years, 6 years later, so let's just say the costs have gone up 30% from there. You know, what are you talking about, 12 grand?
It's also a question of the fact that it's certain expertise when we're dealing with HRD, so we'll talk to
All right,
council.
sounds
Talk
good.
to council, figure it out.
And I believe, Mr. Kelly, I believe I can still locate the RFP that went out. I believe Chief Alves was involved in it. For
I've
his
got a couple
his
too.
replacement, so I can at least find a draft, like a kind of a go-by, because I believe I provided that to Chief Fallon, or no, I'm sorry, Chief Gallagher at the time.
I think
I would ask
the
that
board,
this be on the next agenda.
Right, and the board needs to get the information, I think it's pertinent information, way ahead of time, not 2 hours before the next meeting, or whenever we're gonna discuss this topic again, gentlemen, is that we have that information on what we can and can't do with the assessment center options, right?
Correct.
That's critical moving forward, right? So what we want the assessment center to look like, what is in the scope of the Board of Selectmen to dictate what that assessment's gonna look like, right? It might not be the same thing as last time, we'll figure that out as we move forward.
I'd expect that by no later than Friday before the next meeting. I want the weekend to review it and actually be able to dig in.
Whatever we need to do, it needs to be expedited.
Yep.
And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for having this discussion on this agenda, as my request was last meeting, so. And Chief, thank you very much for your time, getting the information over to us, so we can expedite this. I knew it was coming, and we couldn't wait on it. So again, we're moving, and, you know, are we behind the curve? Yep. But we're gonna do our best to figure this out, so that the men and women of our department have some clear direction on what's going on.
Well, I assure the board and the department that I'm not disappearing on September 7th. You know, I'm just not going to, be answering that phone at 3 in the morning for certain things, so I'll be available in any capacity that's necessary. The last thing I want to do is to, abandon the department of the town.
You're a good man, thank you.
So,
Thank you, Chief.
you're welcome.
Good, thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Have a good night, Chief. Officer, Sergeant, I should say.
Chief, can you, when you talk to HID, can you just get all of those, the levels of
Yeah, I'll
whatever
get
they
the,
are, so the board understands all the
I'll go back to the station.
all the
now, I'll go on
compositions of the training and what years of experience and all the rankings and points and,
Yes.
military status and all of that stuff, right? I think there's even something like 1 or 2 points for military
Yes,
status.
military veterans.
Whatever it is, just give us a breakdown so we can, I just want to get it, I know we're going to move fast, but I want to do the best job that we can, move it as fast as we're going to move.
Okay, I'll work on that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Next item on the agenda, eminent domain, 157 South Main Street, parking lot discussion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I asked to put this on the agenda, and just for educational purposes.
Sure.
I don't want to get people all worked up, because eminent domain means a lot to a lot of people, but here's the deal. South Main Street, we have 0 parking. I just heard from the gentleman who owns the sushi place. He's no longer going to be doing business in town. Feel bad for the guy, didn't have parking. I'd ask the board, take this memo, read it, digest it. We set up an executive session to discuss it, as a strategy, air quotes. But I do think we ought to at least explore every option possible to see how we might be able to work with that property owner to solve the parking, try to at least help the parking situation. True. Maybe it's a long-term lease over there, maybe, I don't know. But we can't see businesses invest and then leave. There's a burrito place going up. Again, hate to see that place go under. We need business in town, and we've got to be creative.
Yep.
When I say people get worked up about eminent domain, this isn't about somebody's home or somebody's residence. Supreme Court, for economic development purposes, and I'm looking at, and I understand that that's where we even go. But I do feel it's our obligation to at least familiarize ourselves with the process and work cooperatively, hopefully with the owner of that property. So that's it.
On that note too, just to point an extra thing out, being as we're exploring all possibilities, I think that there's a way that we can also, even if it's certified mail, reach out to the property owners, if it's adding something into their tax bill, to reach out to them as well. I think it would be a good idea, because reading through this memo, I mean, I got halfway through it and I was like, okay, now we're getting into deep legalities here. And, you know, I think if we're gonna explore one option, let's explore something that actually might work out a little easier and cheaper. We'll give it all a shot, but to keep everything option on the table is a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, look, by way of education, I think the first letter we sent out was in like 1999, 2000.
Okay.
This is not a new idea.
All right?
And so, you know, again, if we can go a less aggressive path, absolutely. But I do think it'd be good to get the attention of the property owner. All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure where we are, how much more on the agenda you have, but I do have Kelly staying after work to try to answer any questions for your last thing on the agenda. I don't know if you could flip-flop for us to get us moving?
Yes, sure.
I don't see anybody else waiting, so
No.
I can see an issue.
Good timing, Mr. Brown. All right, so,
Just talking about number 7?
Probably 7 and 8, right?
yep, just 7, really.
8 would be discussed in executive session, I think. Some of it
Yeah.
is an executive session.
But I'm happy to, I asked for number 8 to be on the agenda as well. So just, so to Bob and to Kelly, I think when anybody leaves, you know, vacates their position, it's always good to just examine the position itself, whether it's full-time, part-time, whatever it may be. And this is, just happened to be the first one before us. You know, we're going through budgetary stuff, so I asked that the board, we talk about it and where we want to go, because this isn't even about the assessor's office, it's more about, you know, just examining anybody who happens to vacate the office, just from a budgetary standpoint. So I just don't think it's a good practice to just automatically assume somebody leaves, we're going to continue to do things, you know, the exact way we've always done it. We may end up landing there, but I do think we just owe it to ourselves and to the town from a budgetary standpoint to at least have the conversation.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
number 8 was a briefing on the planning and conservation.
Correct.
The vacancies were subject to executive session.
Yep. So I'm sorry, just to get some clarification, is Kelly staying for our executive session?
I would appreciate it if
Yeah.
it was okay with you guys.
Yeah, so
She handles the day-to-day
I-
business.
Advise against it.
I'm going to allow the board to make this decision.
I don't think we're talking
Because-
about any particular employees, we're just talking about what Mr. Wonhouse stating, is
Yeah,
that
and-
we reevaluate the job, and I don't think Kelly or I have
My
any issue with that.
my personal opinion is it's Mr. Brown's board, as the Board of Assessors, it directly affects an office that he helps oversee. I personally don't mind, but I will ask my board to chime in.
It doesn't matter to me, I just said, I said what I was going to
Yeah,
discuss with the board anyway.
I agree.
Again, it could be the next person or whatever, just, you know.
I don't even think it needs to go into an executive session, but that's the way you have it listed, so.
Anytime there's a union
If you don't mind
personnel,
getting
yeah.
this, so we can
There's other
discuss it and
matters,
go.
so that might be true, Mr. Brown, but there's other matters the board needs to take up under executive
Okay.
session for the 2 groups.
And seeing as it has a union involved, we're just doing it. But, all right, so let's jump through the rest of this and we can get through that.
All right, do you want to just bang it out?
Yep.
Because I'll make a motion, so if you want to just say what's on the next agenda item, the EMS ambulance.
Yep, EMS ambulance bill abatement.
I'll make a motion to approve the remaining balance of $275 to invoice number 24-84204.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Number 6, conservation restriction, acceptance of conservation restriction, Buzzards Bay, review of matters presented, votes may be taken. This one may have some more questions on.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I'm all for, what this is intending to do, which is just, save some land and open space, but, this property at one point was a business, and there's an abutting business, unless there's some, wetlands issues that I'm unaware of. I hate to just automatically say, we're gonna take this off the tax rolls, and, again, I'm for open space, I'm for all of that, but to just, make the decision that we're not gonna explore some economic development opportunity there, I think it's premature. I don't know what that even looks like, quite frankly, from an economic development standpoint, but I do know that there was a business there, and I know over the years, there were folks who approached the Robichaud family about purchasing it because they wanted to put a business there, and couldn't get it off the dime. So again, maybe there's a portion of it that could be for open space, but you look right next door, you got the Cardoza, there's a business there. And maybe there's an expansion opportunity to bring in tax revenue without taking it off the tax roll.
Yeah, I don't know what the agreement is, Mr. Chairman, between the coalition and this family, but I know there's just over 16 acres, I believe, back there. It abuts the river, right?
Yep.
So I agree with Selectman Wona. I think maybe it warrants a conversation with the coalition to see if they would be willing to do something with the town for the front parcel, at least, of that property.
Right.
And then put the rest of it in a conservation restriction. I'm all for it, but to lose a face lot on South Main Street in a business village district, I think would be a shame. So, and I get some questions for the coalition other than that, right? We don't want to be putting conservation restrictions on any property that may, because we do already own property down here with contamination issues.
Yep.
We want to make sure there's no other contamination issues, and I would want council to review the property and see if there's we're bound by any contamination issues if we only have the conservation restriction on the property. I'm all for a conservation restriction on the back lots. So if Selectman Warner wants to be the point guy to speak with the coalition and see if there's an appetite to do what he's suggesting, is maybe, breaking off that front lot and keeping it with the town, whatever we can do. Go for it.
All right, I'll do that.
Give him some time.
Need a motion for that, or no action because we're not accepting it at the moment?
Table it.
Motion to table.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. All right. Resignation letter from Assessors Department Assistant Nicole Peckham. Dear members of the Acushnet Board of Assessors, please accept this letter as my formal resignation from my position as Administrative Assistant in the Assessor's Office, effective July 12, 2024. I appreciate all that I have been able to learn while working in this position. Thank you so very much for your guidance, education, and support. I am forever grateful. Please let me know how I can be of assistance during this process. I am always more than happy to help. Thank you again, Nicole Peckham. I spoke with Nicole today. She got a job as an assistant treasurer collector, and I'm proud of her. We had a good conversation. We wish her well, and I would accept the motion to accept her resignation letter with regrets.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And number 8, we can continue with old business. We get some appointments. We have Agricultural Commission, Robert Gilmore.
Motion to appoint.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we have Building Commissioner / Enforcement Agent for the Board of Selectmen, Andrew Bobola.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. And street bids follow-up. Review of matters presented, votes may be taken. Looks like we got Hartley and Kendrick.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I can do this real quick.
Sure.
So Hartley is one of the roads that we actually paved from being a dirt road. It's off Nye Lane. It's only 150 feet, 200 feet. Unfortunately, when we went in, the town went in and paved it. One of the neighbors was discharging some sump pump water and gutter spouts and things of the like, and the road level was a bit too high, and it wasn't tapered to Nice Lane where the drain spouts are. So Eversource went in and puts gas main in. And we've made an agreement with Eversource that they would reimburse us for the full road because it's a newly paved road and there's a 5-year moratorium. So they agreed to give us a full amount to reclaim the road again. So Mr. Menard will be doing Hartley Street because he's got to redo the level of the road.
Sure.
So that's the only road that he's going to be doing over there. Kendrick Street is part of a bid spec that we're putting out because it's part of gas main, which is going out with Kendrick, Randall, Nice Lane. And then the other segment for reimbursement, that we're gonna make sure reimbursement from Eversource is appropriate, is Earl, Joseph, and Anthony. So those are 2 different bid specs that we'll be putting out. I'll be with DPW tomorrow, with staff tomorrow, to be looking at what they're doing and what, making sure the bid spec's okay. Then we're gonna ask Mr. Kelly to put it out on Combine to go out to bid on that.
Nice.
So that'll bring everything into perspective there.
Perfect. Neighbors should be nice and buttoned up. Excellent. Gentlemen, Selectmen's announcements?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, we got a communication from the town of Fairhaven. The Fairhaven Select Board created an Acushnet resident rate for shellfish permits. They will be $150. The normal non-resident rate is $250. So $100 savings. This is sort of an extension of the earlier conversation that we had in agreement with the town of Fairhaven, where we bartered essentially West Island beach passes in exchange for Acushnet River Valley golf rates for Fairhaven residents. So I appreciate the town of Fairhaven. What I understand, Buzzards Bay is closed right now, but once it's open, this opportunity will present itself for Acushnet residents. I think it's a good thing to do, and I'm very appreciative that the Fairhaven Select Board, this is different from the BPW, who had to oversee the beach passes, and we are monitoring. Talked to Dana at the course. At this point, there has been a fair amount of interest, but not to a point where it's like burdening the system. So I think this hopefully will get us to a point where we can expand, the beach pass opportunities down the road. So I think this is just great. Thank you to the Fairhaven Select Board.
Mr. Gaspar?
Well, just the only thing I want to say is to encourage everybody in our community to stop by the local food stands, farm stands, and things of the like. Vegetables are being picked now. Anything you can do to support your local farmers, please do. There's some great vegetables. Some of our local farmers even supply meat and things of the like. So support your local farmers. Thank you.
Quick word from Ms. Tomlinson. Unfortunately, we did have a long-term resident pass away. It was with heavy heart. We share that on Sunday, June 23rd, 2024, Dr. Christine Galmont, Doctor of Veterinary Medicine, passed away after a brief illness. Dr. Galmont was not only a member of our community, but a dedicated resource for our town, held many rabies vaccine clinics at the Department of Public Works over the years with animal control officers and town clerk office. She had her practice in town here for more than 38 years as well. So we'd like to thank her for her service to the town and send our condolences to her family as well.
Absolutely. Rest in peace.
And I'd also like to say welcome home to my mom. I'll leave it at that. And we have an executive session. Executive session under Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, subsection 21A3, to discuss strategy under collective bargaining AFSCME DPW laborers if the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the governmental body, and the board will not return to public session at the conclusion of the executive session. Is there a motion to go to executive session?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, roll call vote. Mr. Warner?
Yes.
Mr. Gasper?
Yes.
I am a yes. We are now in executive session.